So welcome on day 3 here, actually at the GCCM in Berlin. So welcome everybody, welcome the audience. I know it's a full house today, so happy that you could make it, and hope you enjoyed yesterday evening. So, having said that, important stuff to discuss about how to interconnect now and in the future, and what choices and new standards do we have, or should we make, or at least explore and to maybe do. I'm happy to have the senior experts next to me, and I'll give them a quick minute to introduce themselves. If I may start with you, Mark.
Hi everybody, my name's Mark. I work for a company called Epsilon. We are an interconnection company providing data connectivity services, co-location services, and real-time communication services, including like voice and SMS termination, a little bit of messaging. So I head up the product team and do a little dabbling in strategy and stuff like that.
Thank you. Good to have you, Mark. Peter?
Next is me. My name is Peter Dulz. I work for Sienna, based out of Frankfurt. I'm probably here in this round the one who represents the vendor community. So at Sienna, we do transport communication. We interconnect the data centers. We interconnect the telcos. We have a strong telco business, but these days, our business is more and more shifting towards the data centers, towards the hyperscalers, because those are the ones who have a massive communication demand.
Thank you.
Hi, this is Piyush Srivastava, the founder and the managing director of ARX Technologies. We're based in the UK, headquartered in the UK. We are a global aggregator of network solutions, which is more last mile access, equipments, networking hardwares, field support, professional services. We're part of an eco group, which is a Czech-based company. I'm looking forward to this panel. I'm quite excited, really.
Thank you, Piyush, and welcome. Sander?
Yeah, good morning, everyone. My name is Sander Barends. I'm the Chief Product Officer at Xperio. We are the largest managed services provider connecting large enterprise to the internet, to their clouds with security overlay. Very excited to talk about this, how we can collaborate. For the last 20 years, Xperio has been automating our global supplier base to bring this digital experience in front of our customers. And even today, it's still a hot topic. So happy to collaborate.
Thank you, Sander. And last but not least, Charmant.
Can you just speak without a microphone? Can you
No.
pick me up?
No.
Okay, thank you. Hi, afternoon. My name is Sharman. I'm from a company called Interconnect Global. What we do, we are a Singapore MK company. We do connectivity and we do software. So we build global POPs running layer 2 SDN services. And on top of that, we use a lot of automations, and we do a lot of API to collaborate with a lot of different API partners in order to provide the services together. So this year, I reckon maybe my 3rd year here. So glad to see new faces, full house of people, and a lot of new people, old friends, panelists. I'm looking forward for a very good, exciting discussion today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's just jump in immediately, and maybe Sander, if I can start with you. Overlooking the whole and the interconnection, whatever is going on, and you pinpointed it already a little bit on how to collaborate. But let's start at the beginning. What do you think are the biggest trends or factors affecting the current connectivity market, and to make sure that we can meet, let's say, the demand which is there?
Yeah, I think we're in a carrier-to-carrier setting here, but at the end, we're always trying to connect the enterprise, but then in an indirect model. As Xperio, we serve both. We serve the carrier-to-carrier as well as enterprise direct, but both struggle with the same challenge, that connectivity continues to be fragmented. As well as because the world is quite large and there are so many different parties that when we talk about automation, there is no one-size-fits-all. Within the data center space, the automation is already pretty far advanced. But if you look at connecting the last mile, which is arguably the most difficult part of putting a network together, the choices are many. And there's also a lot of new technologies coming to the market, like 5G or LEO, low Earth orbiting satellites. So what we've done in terms to automate that is not to depend on our partners for the automation, but we've been trying to offer a platform that helps them to automate themselves. Like I said, we've been doing this over the last 20 years. So what I see as one of the evolving technologies that really helps the automation are APIs. But we roughly have 3,000 suppliers globally, and we have hundreds of APIs. And that shows you that the market is heading in that direction, but it's still just a start. As to automate, you need to have your internal systems in order. You need to have your data in a particular way. And it has to make commercial sense for you to trying to do that. If it doesn't make sense to do so, then investing in that automation is simply not a viable business case. But yeah, we do see a lot more movement in the APIs. You also see forums like the TM forum and the MEF, where we're both in as well. Really trying to standardize that, so to create an environment for the carriers to interconnect with each other.
Talking about challenges, I'll come to that later. Mark, what's your take on the trends currently?
I agree there. I think you could kind of consider the trends almost horizontally driven and vertically driven. Horizontally, it's like service threading is a big issue right now. Like there's a number of service providers here. The ultimate objective is that we could service thread, orchestrate a service across our 3 networks, terminating at the business site, and have complete autonomy to control that service, and visibility is the most important thing as well. Looking at the service, is it performing well? So that's creeping forward, and Sanders has mentioned MEF and et cetera, but it is around API integration, utilizing and choosing the right partners, et cetera. But that's huge. That's our objective in terms of creating the service package right now. The verticalization trend I see right now is driven by the overlay services like SD-WAN, et cetera. That's driving companies like us to have to start to consider different deployment models to enable SD-WAN. So the integration of a DIA service, which is kind of out of our control to some extent, but still enabling that transport to work really well and not degrade from the previous MPLS network experience. Really difficult, but makes our job fun right now in a way, trying to solve these problems. So I really see kind of vertical challenges and I call them horizontal challenges. So, we partner with companies on this panel right now to extend that capability, have the single kind of interface and single control, and visibility is control as well. If I can visibly see what's happening on Charman's network, then we're in control. Even if all we could do is go, that's not good, let's make a call. Now that'll be automated in the future, but yeah, they're the challenges, certainly as a product person right now, that we're trying to solve.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Charman?
Well, I would like to mention 3 observations that I had over the last couple of weeks. So I was in GCCM Singapore 2 weeks ago, and then I was in another conference in Washington last month, right?
That small conference, right? The very
Well, yeah. So I'm astonished by so many new partners that coming to talk to us and say, hey, I've got API, right? I'm API enabled. Can I work with you guys? Now, it's not the kind of API we previously worked on before. We use API for automation, the MEF, sort of standard. It's a carrier interconnect, right? And then we start seeing companies, they use API in the pre-sales environment. So they use the API to allow customer to search for address, right? Cost coverage and all that, right? So API is not only telco interworking thing, it's actually engaged into the pre-sales stage as well. So API is all along the way from pre-sales to ordering, provisioning, and all that. So this is one thing, right? So we pick up a lot of panelists talk about API. This is happening. This is happening not on the tier 1's level, but also tier 2, maybe even not a service provider. Just someone just trade information. I have a piece of database that cover all the address, call API, and then you get the information. So APIs actually go beyond inter-carrier things, right? It's already engaged in sales, service, and payments as well. This is number 1. Number 2, we talk about automation, right? I heard about words like automation a couple of times. Automation is happening. Once again, not between all the tier one guy, but whoever have the software ability running SDN software, running an SDN network is capable to do it easily, right? So we have API already, right? A lot of other companies can join this game, collaborate with a lot of partners easily. So number three, I wonder if someone would start talking about AI today, right? So I'm the one talking about AI first. So AI is happening, at least it's happening in the Asia region that I'm very strong with. And I will talk about this later on if we have time, but what AI is happening, it's actually impacting the telecom industry in a big way in terms of connectivity, in terms of the bandwidth demand. We are changing the way how we're going to build network because of AI, accelerated computing, AI factory, and all that thing. So what's going to impact us in a big way? So we can talk about it later on about challenge. But yes, and I'll leave it to other panelists to share the idea right now. But this is the big thing that I'm seeing coming.
Okay.
Just one thing, if I could comment, talk about API. When I sat down with designing our SDN platform, it's really 3 layers of concept that you have to build as the portal, the front end, all that, the orchestration. But one thing that's really important that we identified is you have to define the fact that you are building an API hub. And that was the kind of thing that hit us straight away. Is like, we took our first kind of look and said, we've integrated 10 different APIs all of a sudden. We've got to start to manage that as its own entity as well. And now with AI as well, that makes that concept of managing that environment much more important as well.
Okay, thank you. So Peter, hearing this, guys, that's all fine. I mean, you're on the vendor side. How do you see, what kind of trends do you see in the market?
No, they said it correct. It's very
Don't say this. Say they're incorrect.
No. But it's so easy to say I need an API to make something programmable. But I mentioned earlier, I'm coming from the vendor industry, and we supply to you the connectivity devices. And think about it as an autobahn. What do you want to do with an API to the autobahn? What to do with that? But you need to have a highway that is programmable. And only if you have infrastructure that is programmable, then an API makes sense. So think about us, who works on 2 innovations. The one, the autobahn needs to get faster at the same price level. So that's what we do. We are trying to move the bits faster through the fibers. And we need to make it a little bit more intelligent to control the photons in the bits. And AI, not sure we should call it AI, but one example is we learn from the fiber. And there are fibers that go through the Atlantic. And there are fibers that just go from the first pop to the residential. And we produce very much the same technology for both of the use cases. So we learn from the infrastructure, adapt our engines to the need, and ideally we make it programmable. And that's the innovation we try to do it. You may think about us as someone who builds an autobahn, but in reality, the engine behind this is on, we build our DSPs. So we build processors, like an Apple built their own processors for the iPhones. We build our processors for our autobahns, and it's software, because at the end, it's all software controlled, even in the layer 1.
All right. Piyush?
I couldn't agree more. I think the panel is absolutely right. Overall, I think it's a combination of these trends driving because of the customer itself. Over the time, things have changed. The customer itself, the end users, whether you call it as enterprise customers or the actual user of the service or a consumer, they want more. They want more from a provider to be flexible, agile, and that is a customer experience you are giving eventually. End of the day, people need you to be there when they need it. And the time is not real time anymore. The AI is driving the complete fact of things to be predictable, things to be more automated, people can have better visibility, control over it, as Mark was mentioning. And without these new trending technology, I think the telecom has been in the age of running the business for a very long time on its own. The technology was missing, and this is what we are seeing is technology is driving the telecom these days. Whether you consider, I think SD-WAN 5 years or 6 years ago, now SD-WAN is real. Everybody is going after the SD-WAN as a service, and it's more mature. And we are seeing a lot of demands for internet services that we have ever seen in last 10 years. The growth of internet services, though the revenue-wise, for the telcos is still very low in terms of 4 to 5%, but the data consumption data have increased nearly 40% in last 2 years, if I see, and that growth will continue to grow next 3-4 years. I think the telecom industry itself, if they don't, do the investment, they don't go for these capacity new build, that this trend of increased data, whether you consider gaming, as a user or a shopper, or could be healthcare, industry itself, everyone is utilizing more devices. Consumers buy more mobile, friendly devices. I think these all are the combination, and or anything on the top is the customer experience. The telecoms today, I think they're putting a lot of investment to how better they serve the customer, giving the right experience, the benefit of their network, which is great network infrastructure, but sometimes people don't know where to go, how to get things done. And Gen AI, which is nowadays a lot of leading telco investing heavily into this. I say definitely AI and combination of APIs giving the visibility and insight is the driving factor.
Okay, thank you. But we all know, we are in the industry, especially on the connectivity. It's going like this, right? It's just going up. There is no end to it, right? Meaning there's also a shortage of capacity, right? So what are the key challenges to tackle that? Just build more? Supply more?
Yeah, so on the equipment side, if you see how fast the innovation was in the last 10 years, you all know the Moore's law, yeah? How everything increases every year. In communication, that rule is not true because it's faster. Yeah? And if the car manufacturing industry would innovate that fast as we would, then cars would produce energies. Mm. Should be a fun story. The issue is the infrastructure that you need, the physical infrastructure, can be very often a limiting factor. Look like building data centers in Frankfurt, where I live. The community of Frankfurt doesn't want to have all these data centers in the city. There is no power. Where to go with the heat? So it's the simple questions like where to build those data centers and where to get the power from and where to bring that heat dissipation to us. NTT Data wants to implement another data center in the Frankfurt area, 500 gigawatt. You need a nuclear power plant for that. So, or you would need an equivalent of 100 windmills. Mm. So the connectivity is the easy part of it. We just go there with a few fibers. Yeah? We can bring over a few fibers. We can, at the speed of light, we can bring the entire internet to that point. But to bring the power that is needed to that one. And then, if it is about security, you don't need not only one power feed, you need two. You need security and reliability and all that. And that is a much bigger challenge than the part where I'm dealing with where it is all about speed. Mm. Yeah.
All right.
It's undoubtedly investment required. Basically, the growth that we're seeing is driven by applications. Now, those applications might be video on demand, conferencing tools. It could be the fact that we've gone for 4K to 8K streaming, which is created a huge challenge, not just for Epsilon, but say our parent company, KT. And so what can you do? You've got to invest in bandwidth, and you've got to invest in your physical infrastructure. The thing is, we don't need any 1 gig ports anymore. Right? We have a good story in terms of we were providing global remote peering for 5 meg services, 10 meg services, not that long ago, but now it's all 5 gig and 10 gig. Why is that happening? It's driven by applications, whether it's video on demand or whatever, gaming, the growth in CDNs. There is a lot of challenges going on in that market right now, but all those CDNs exist because of applications, and that's been the challenge for us, and particularly during the COVID period, where deploying infrastructure, deploying more bandwidth was difficult, yet consumption of that bandwidth quadrupled, if not more. So yeah, it's investment time.
Anyone wants to kick in on this one? Yeah, Sander?
Well, I'm going to say yes, but it's not going to stop there. What you're mentioning, Mark, a lot of that is because of consumer-driven behavior. If I look at enterprise networking, yes, there's an increase in bandwidth requests, but not to the extent as you see in the consumer market. Yeah, they're not all day on 8K Netflix. I hope not. Well, we've got great filters on the security side to take that out. But we talked about AI earlier as well, and if you see the bandwidth demands that AI is going to do in combination with more data center space, and we're all need to do this sustainably, so where do I'm going to get green energy from? I think this is where the real growth is. So yes, you see consumer behavior still increasing in terms of bandwidth demands, but also from the business to business and the enterprise market, yeah, we're going to see another increase there. And I think the last report that I read, up to 30% over the next few years already. So lots of new excitement in the market.
Only 30%.
Yeah, exactly.
But interesting, everybody's saying AI is driving the demand. And yes, we see that it is driving the investments into compute data center. But think about OpenAI, ChatGPT, you all use it. It's just text. So there's the bandwidth going between the cloud and the user is peanuts. It's nothing. But what changed some of the business models is you need more compute power for the learning, you need data center that talks to data center. So there will be much more centralized data center, of course. And if other learning aspects or the result of a learning result needs to go closer to the user, and if then latency comes back, like self-driving cars, for example, then you need data centers that comes closer to the user. And then the next challenge comes where to build those edge data centers, and then you will have a network between the data centers. Not like today where you have these big cloud data center which are just interconnected and the other network is the access to the cloud. There will be meshiness between
you will
the
have
data
those
center
mini data centers around the city, around the country. That's what you're going to have.
Yeah.
So you're going to be busy.
That will increase much more.
You're going to be very busy.
Please.
Absolutely.
I would like to add one thing.
Please.
Here is definitely these technologies is driving the demands of the bandwidth, the development over 5G, and if you see LEO, the key players, a couple of them, handful, and when you speak to them, they're everywhere, and they're investing a lot into all the satellites that they're throwing into the space, and the telcos, I think, is still finding it a bit a challenge. They ended up partnering with these key, two players in the market. But again, Amazon entering into this space with Kuppler project. I think telcos should be really worried about what is the next game for this space, which is the combination of your first trend as well as the opportunity for, other than just capacity shortage, they should be really focusing more on these new technology, how the bandwidth demand is going to be in coming months and in years. And the AI combination, computing power and into data center, those things are still driving these facts, which we already know, but quantum computing, which is going to be the next big thing, in my opinion, which is going to drive a lot demand of those bandwidth, which is we are still far away, but are we ready? Are we ready for these new technological challenges which are going to come, perhaps not in months, but in years, 2 years, 3 years? And with this new LEO, more satellites, you still need fiber on ground. You still need a lot of capacity to be.
It needs to come down.
Yes, exactly.
That's simple.
Exactly. And wireless is one thing, whether 5G and next coming 6G. But if you don't invest or continue to invest into fiber and into data center, I think we will have continuous issues. And I've been reading some articles where numbers are there, but research, what it says about is the gaming and online gaming content CDN players, they're driving more than 80% than the rest of the users, and this will continue to grow in coming months. And the data itself is everything. So you have more data, perhaps 3 times of the data that were there 3 years ago. So about 10 petabyte of data consumptions happening now, and nobody knows what's going to be next. And the whole thing comes to, are we ready? Are we ready to serve customers? Are we ready to serve these increased data demand coming in the market? And the investments, though we are small, but there are giants that are there, that they have a big pocket, but they have to invest, and then they have to continue investing. And key players, hyperscalers, of course, they have money to continue investing, but the telecoms itself struggles with the heavy investment that, again, $342 billion as per the predictions that they got to invest in 2027 to do it. So perhaps, yes. Yeah, so yeah, I think it's a challenging era, but it's also an opportunity. So where there is a challenge, there is an opportunity for a growth, and for opportunity for us to grow as well as an industry. So yeah.
Absolutely. Chairman?
Yeah, I would like to add 3 perspectives in here. You talk about capacity shortage also. I'm referring to connectivity, right? We all suffer right now from the major cable cut between Europe and Asia. So that cable being cut for 6 months, no sign of being repaired. So we suffer already, right? We're already providing a very relatively high latency from Asia to Europe right now. It used to be 100 something milliseconds, it's now almost 200 milliseconds. So nothing we can do right now, but we have to do something. So what happened is, because of that cable cut, the shortage of the capacity right now, we start seeing new things to do services. For instance, we find out that there are a lot of unused capacities around between Asia and Europe, but just nobody know that, or that company offering that resources not being well known. So actually, there are resources there. So how to resolve it? Welcome to the SDN game. Use API. Let's share that resources. So everyone want to buy that resource. You have resources there, right? That's happening because of the capacity shortage. Allow those not tier 1 company actually sell more. This is one thing. Number 2 is, because of that, we build new cable. New cable is coming, right, between Asia and Europe. You never know that new cable, when it turn on, will it work? For how long, we don't know that, but new cable is coming. So apart from waiting for new resources, another way to do it is to reduce your demand for cross-continent demand by putting your data to the user. That's why you start seeing the auto CDN player not going to use the long-distance connectivity to connect to the eyeball data and move the CDN to the local market in order to reduce the demand for capacity. So I can see all this is happening right now. I think buy, build, increase utilization, and save some cost saving. These are all the things that was happening right now, I think.
Okay, and hopefully the end user, the enterprise, will benefit from it. Now, talking about enterprises, Sander, how does the internet can win, let's say, on the not only on the growing internet exchanges ecosystem, but also on the cloud connectivity? What do you tell your end customers? What they can expect?
Yeah, cloud is a big word. If I look at the larger enterprise, there are hundreds of cloud applications within their application suite, and those hundreds of cloud applications are hosted all over the world. And that can be from local payroll in the Philippines to the big AWS or the Salesforce, whatever they use. And we see continuous growth in cloud adoption because it's so easy to use an application that is hosted somewhere, and it can be the marketing department, can be R&D, anybody who wants to use a little bit of that. The big challenge is, how do you build an infrastructure to support that flexibility? Because the enterprise really needs it. But we had a nice example, and this was in the Philippines, whereby the office was complaining about performance, and they were connected to the internet, but with a nice tier 1 American provider, and the peering was simply not right. And when we looked at which department was complaining, it was the payroll, which was hosted locally in Manila, and by the time that we connected with local ISP services, that problem very cost effectively, but was solved instantly. And that is the big challenge for the global enterprise today. How do I match my internet access? Because it's not a global commodity, and internet continues to fragment. There are over 100,000 networks today registered and growing, while the cloud applications can be hosted anywhere. And we do see that the big clouds start to get closer to their users. So probably in the big countries, they're going to put their own data centers rather than 1 or 2 or 3 big ones around the world. But that's only for a few applications, and the rest will continue to be fragmented. And that is what we see the biggest challenge for an enterprise today.
All right. Mark, you want to bump in here?
Yeah, I'm seeing growth in the consideration of enterprises connecting themselves directly to IXs. We're certainly seeing that in Western Europe. Banks, fintech in particular, believe it or not, were the first takers of those as options, where they're basically connecting to an IX and getting a peering relationship dedicated, or not dedicated, but straight into Google, Microsoft. Now, Microsoft Azure has something called Maps, the Azure peering service. So you can directly peer into the Microsoft stack completely on a private internet. A guy I'm working with on this at AMSIX, we're calling it BizNet at the moment. So you can see that the enterprises are looking at different options, particularly the big ones, of course, and they have to have an ASN to peer at the IX. And then, as Sander said, at the other end of the scale, it's understanding if you're putting a global solution together is like utilize local ISPs, but be able to kind of run some kind of layer over the top so that you can see how the traffic is performing once that ISP hands it off to their upstream provider or whatever. So from both ends, there's definitely a change in both the service packaging and the service enablement for the enterprise. And it's all, a lot of it is being confused because of the work from home thing as well. And so you're seeing a lot of transport that you used to have from some big business building kind of dissipate, but then you're seeing like their VPN gateways exploding. So yeah, there's a lot of re-engineering as well, which is fun for tech pre-sales and engineers and that. But it does kind of move your internet traffic into different areas.
Okay. A quick one on security. We didn't talk about security yet. Yep. Please. No.
I mean,
2 minutes.
Security. Again, I'm talking only about the connectivity part.
Sure.
Connectivity is a critical infrastructure thing, and security, there is nothing new. So if you want for a bit of upsell, for a bit of extra price, you can connect the entire communication pipe that is leaving a data center, if it goes through the Atlantic or if it goes to the neighbor city, just by encrypting everything which goes onto the fiber, so that at least tapping to the fiber would not work. The other aspects that may be probably more important is this kind of protection or resiliency and restoration, so that you have diverse routes, that you can switch the photons if one fails. You mentioned the fiber cut. I mean, if somebody in a submarine cable, hopefully that provider does have an alternative route, and the user can switch just to the other one, so that you can survive for a couple of months. It might take to repair a subsea cable, and usually it takes months
try to order a ship now on the subsea.
Yeah.
To try.
Yeah.
If you book now, 2032, you're the first one.
Excellent. Or invest in new cables.
Yeah, but
On the
that-
security, I will just add it here because the cyber attacks, again, is one of the concern for many organizations. Telcos, I've just been reading the article yesterday. The Israeli telco, Bezek, had a cyber attack, quite massive. About a month ago, Frontier Networks of the US had a cyber attack. Early this year, AT&T had a cyber attack. So telcos are not just responsible for consumers, they are responsible to manage that network that they run as much secure as possible. If the telcos are touchable for these cyber crimes, then everybody else is. So I think the cyber security and those resilience in the network is as equal piece of the business as they do for the rest of the things. So this is my take really on the cyber these days are increasing very heavily after the COVID, you say after the situation going with Russia. And if we don't do now, again, same situation, we will be, who knows who is next. So
There you go. Sander?
Yeah, we're looking at it from an enterprise perspective, and on security, there is a lot of innovation going on. We talked about SD-WAN a little bit earlier, but SASE, Zero Trust networks, we see a lot of convergence there, so we're probably going to end up somewhere around secured access as a general concept. Here in Europe, you also see that from a regulation perspective, NIS2 is being implemented, making larger companies aware, responsible for their own security environment. But yeah, there will be an ongoing battle between the attackers and technology in order to create enough security against that. And not to repeat myself, but I said it yesterday when we talked about security as well, is that one of the biggest threats to insecurity is still the human factor. So technology can only solve so much. We need to make sure that any company, any enterprise also creates that security awareness amongst its staff and the users of those applications, because you're one click away from an attack, which you could have prevented by simply not clicking.
Yeah, and that's so it will be with us for a long, long time, unfortunately. But okay, it's needed. But some people earn a lot of money on that security and surveillance, which is a good thing. Now, by the end of the day, for me, to have seamless connectivity experience, partnerships are key. And I'm long enough in the industry, ladies and gentlemen, to tell you that we're talking about this already more than 30 years, if not longer. And to me, just to throw a curveball, it is not really happening. I'm not seeing it. Mark, what should we do?
So I'm really old, and so I come from the old days of Global One and World Partners, Concert even. So we've done, like, our whole world is cyclical. So we had this. In the past, though, our services could be physically interconnected, but you couldn't share the data between. And so that was a big problem when you had a unified solution between Telecom Australia, AT&T, and British Telecom, as an example. Service kind of worked okay, but you couldn't see over the fence. Now we can see over the fence as long as we allow each other to do that. So that's a big thing. And what you're seeing when you go to MEF...
Is it trust? Sorry to interrupt.
The hardest thing to do in my world is to convince an engineer to allow somebody else to be viewing what's going on in their network or in their device. Once you crack that, that's okay. You got security issues, of course. But if we're configuring a service over DC Connect into China, it's seamless as far as the customer is concerned, if that customer can see end to end. So those conversations are happening, but they're just not happening at the level that the 30 years ago ones used to do with a big press release and a world tour and all that kind of stuff.
I remember.
But we're doing it we're doing these agreements in the back rooms of MEF events, and there are loads of interconnected SDN partnerships, let's say, emerging right now. ourselves. We're interconnected, not just at the physical ENNI layer, but at a SDN layer. They are happening. It's just not being promoted. I think, in my opinion, if I'm sitting next to a vendor, swear word, but a vendor, or if I'm Juniper or whatever, I don't understand why they're not pulling together Juniper conferences and getting all the Juniper customers together and saying, hey, you can interwork just like click a button, as long as you've got a physical connection, now you've got a global network. To me, and I've even said this to these guys, that they're not picking up on that. That's a great opportunity. At the moment, it's happening independently between the organizations, the service providers, and in some cases being facilitated by MEF and maybe TM Forum and stuff. But it is happening. It's just not happening maybe fast enough, and it's not being publicized.
Can I add something on this?
Absolutely.
You mentioned another vendor's name. I mean, you mentioned Juniper, so a well-known vendor in routing. We as Sienna, we are new in routing. We come from the layer one, but so we are the new kids on the block. And maybe that's why I have a different perspective on it. But there is, with regards to partnership, and this is a big word, partnership needs to be enabled. And this new enablement is that the buyer world is requesting multi-source agreements. And that is driving standards and openness and disaggregation. So in these days, and what makes a router expensive? It's very often the optical interface in the router. Mm-hmm. So wouldn't it be nice to, let's say, to buy your optical interface of choice and put it into this Juniper router, but then how to manage it? And these are the big innovations that are now happening, that this aggregation in the hardware world is becoming reality. Mm-hmm. It was always a big world in standardization, ITUT, IEEE or whatever. They are asking for it since many years, but it was never a reality. But I believe it's the drive which came from the cloud provider. So from this big buying power that were driving this openness and the APIs down to the layer one boxes. And now this is becoming reality. And the good thing is it allows convergence. So if you can now build, let's say, a router with the optical interface. You don't have to buy let's say, a separated optical box and the router box, mm-hmm. Which only one does the layer 3 and one does the layer 1. So, and if you make this programmable, you get much more choice and flexibility. That's what I would call the partnership. But partnership is a big word. It's the enabling, the disaggregation and the openness of the interface. And we as Sienna, as we are in some of the network layers, our strength is the openness. And that's what I wanted to emphasize on.
You have like clouds like AWS who go and build their own MPLS version. So you they go their own way too. Makes it even more challenging.
From those companies, we have learned how to build the APIs. They told us.
Exactly. All right, Sander, want to comment on it?
Yeah, we do see more and more collaboration. I think from a technology perspective, we're finally getting closer to do that, especially between the larger companies, carriers around the world. I think one of the reasons, if not the reason, why we don't see a faster acceleration there is because the commercial models are simply not following as quickly as the intention of the engineers, right? At the end of the day, the carriers want to make money, so opening up my network to somebody else to do a seamless implementation is a great technology idea, but how do we pay each other, and how do I make sure that I get the benefits from that as well? And I see that those models are still in its infant stage, and we need to get there first, and then the technology will follow, and the collaboration will follow as well.
That's a huge point you've raised, Sanders, actually. Building and establishing a relationship with a chosen partner means that you must always give each other the cheapest, wholesale less price so that your partner can successfully sell your product. And that is a massive issue. And that goes all the way from account management to strategic management to your pricing teams and that whole circle. Because if you get that wrong, then you've got a massive failure point.
Exactly.
Really good point.
Charlie?
Yeah, I think I see this as a kind of digital transformation for any telco, where they really want to make things happen. But the digital transformations comes with a price, so someone have to pay for it, right? So I've seen numerous CEO talk about, I embrace digital transformations. But when you talk to the CTO, they will say, don't touch my network, right? Don't do it, right? We've seen it happening because there are different stakeholders in the organization that embrace it or find some challenge or that. And then there are cases, that's why it's moving very slowly, even with the MEF, right, in the MEF organization trying to push that forward, but it's still moving very slowly. But we see some successful cases where a company decided to spin it off and started with a totally new SDN platform to do it. And that may be a way to do it. You have to put away the legacy thing, accounting, investment plan, that sort of thing, right? Put it aside, do it in a way that you just spin it off and automation from the scratch. That might have a valid business case to move ahead, right? This is number one. Number two, Mark also mentioned that some companies are very protective about so-called company confidential information. You want to collaborate with a partner, you need to share your POPs location, share your NNI location, share your price, right? The price, the wholesale price. Some companies say, no, I do not want that pieces of information to share to you because I don't know who can access that. So, well, this might be a valid, legit commercial decision, but because of that decision, you're not opening it up. You're not collaborating. You are just doing the way, legacy way. So it won't help. So collaborate means openness, right? In order to make things happen, openness.
Tell that to the big operators. It's not gonna work. It's not gonna.
But that's a massive point, right? You think of engineers deploying an ENI and filling out an Ethernet questionnaire, and then it says don't support Q&Q. It's like, okay, I've just exposed that, right? That hurdle is one thing, but once you start at the commercial level, like the engineers solve that, but at the commercial level, as you said, now starting to expose the terms that I operate. I'm working on the MEF SLA template definition for smart contracts right now. Just getting people to actually share their SLAs with somebody that they're not selling a service to right now, it's difficult. It's actually, I think, harder than what
Hell yes.
engineers
Of course
stuff
it's
right
difficult.
yeah, and they're all members too. It's weird.
Yeah, but they all have the little needy-peedy things in there. Okay. How do we interconnect now and in the future? Doing a closing round, and I'll give everybody a quick minute. How do we foresee the future? What's there to expect? What can we do? Should we start with you? What's out there? What can we expect, or what should we look out for or be afraid of? What's your view?
I think the very first thing comes in mind is you can buy everything online, but you can't buy internet from internet. Buying internet on internet is something that people should be working for and should be going. I think that's the way I see the market should be driving. These all APIs, interconnections, everything is giving that visibility and making people, coming to you because you are easy to do business. You have visibility, you do control, you know what you are doing basically. And these enterprises they want people to take the responsibility. They want people, when something is down or not working, one person is accountable for, and that party, if they can take control of it, manage it, resolve it, I see enterprises going towards that way, that direction. The technologies are driving definitely the factors. So whether you consider 5G, new deployments of the fiber FTTP into many countries where still copper is the legacy. And if you consider UK, BT has been trying to replace their copper infrastructure going FTTP everywhere, which is still, I think, 2-3 years away to have 99% covered. these technologies, and Leo, of course, is something people should be looking forward to. Everything wraps up to that customer experience, making things more visible, available online to buy services. So that's my take on it. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, the key trends I see, and again, I'm representing a technology company, is still innovation. I mentioned earlier, we are moving bits fast. The innovation already reached a point where the physical limits are met. So the innovation will be not making it faster. The innovation will be more around making it more flexible and adapting it to different use cases and allow automation. And that comes then together with the openness and disaggregation I mentioned earlier. And in our technology area, that is leading to...
Yes, mommy, I'm coming home.
That is leading to convergence. And all you things you learned in school, layer 1, layer 2, layer 3, in 5 years, this is one common layer.
Okay. Charmant. What's your view on let's say in the future? What should we look out for?
Good. I would like to quote from Jensen Huang, the founder and CEO of NVIDIA. Right? He said it last year in Columbia Business School. He said, the AI will not take over your jobs. Right? He said, the people who use this AI will take over your jobs. So it's happening, right? Who should scale? You should scale AI company. You have to do it, learn it, somehow incorporate it into your daily business. But what does it translate to us, right, in the telecom industry? So I start seeing the mega AI DC data center. Well, one data center only do one thing, right? To produce the AI that become AI factory. The product of that factory is a token. So AI data center here, AI data center here. And you will start seeing distributed AI factories around. Now, how are those distributed data center connect, right? Would they need to talk to each other? They need to talk to each other, definitely. So how would they do it? Going to talk to each other? Is it the same way how we provisional DCI? Not exactly. Even for a service provider like us, right? We used to identify a strategic port location to connect. So maybe the cloud provider here, content provider here. Then okay, I have to get my connectivity there. But now we start identifying where are those AI factory. Maybe I should connect to those AI factory now, not cloud data center anymore. So we changed the way how we try to expand our network, right? Not the usual way. It's the usual carrier hotels, cloud data center. No, not that, right? Identify where they are, and then figure out a way to connect to that. Because we are talking about not gigabit of connectivity traffic anymore. We're talking about terabit, multiple terabit of connectivity. Maybe it's good news for you, Peter. Yeah, super high speed switches and network, but that is going to change. It's our SDN software capable to handle terabytes of traffic switching? Not sure, right? I have to ask my vendor whether it's capable to do that, but it's going to happen. It's going to change the landscape in a big way. So you have to be scared. Right? We're scared about what's happening. That's why we need to be ready now.
All right. Mark? What's your view?
I think for Epsilon right now, at least, and for other companies that I speak to, the focus right now is not necessarily investing in build it and they will come, but investing where you know the growth is, where you're seeing it over your own network, and then utilizing partners for your extension. I think that's a big piece right now from our perspective as well. So, because the driving technology evolution right now, having to upgrade to 400 gig backbones and et cetera, costs a lot of money. So how am I going to serve that customer? Again, I'll use that example in Guangzhou or whatever, is I'm not, well, probably politically, I may never build a network there, but I can serve that extended network service through partners whilst solidifying and growing my own core. So strategically, that's right now. Longer term future, we use this term service threading. in my opinion, at least in the future, thanks to people like this, we're going to be able to take an instruction from an SD-WAN overlay, either reconfigure our layer 2 network to take instructions from it, or even spin up a wavelength to say, I need some point-to-point traffic between these two data centers right now. That's coming. It's inevitable. It's just how long it's going to take. And just a last point, there's a lot of investment from the EU, particularly in the Netherlands right now, to look at, Piyush mentioned quantum computing, quantum networking as well. That could be one of the saviors for us in the future to counterbalance the whole explosion in additional networking functionality, but that's a long way off.
Always the Dutch, right?
Yes. They just got a load of money from the EU about 1.5 years ago to invest.
They even invented the stock exchange, remember?
Uh-huh.
Sander, last famous words.
As Dutch, okay, let me finish with that. I think as an enterprise, with all the innovation that's going on, you're going to have to find a partner to help you solve that global problem. We're probably never going to get to a global kumbaya where every single ISP and every single carrier is interconnected with a seamless experience across all. And as an enterprise, you don't want to solve that problem. So find a partner to do so. While in the background, yes, there will be more collaboration between the networks, but it will never be extended to every single last mile on a global scale. We do expect convergence in connectivity and security, especially since there's more and more connectivity options coming to the market, 5G, 6G, LEO. And I'm going to have to bring that together into one seamless experience, because I fully agree with you. At the end of the day, it is the enterprise experience that's going to drive our behavior. For the carrier to work with each other, each carrier has to think about its own value. Otherwise, we're never going to solve the commercial problem, and that will stagnate collaboration.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for those gentlemen? Please.
I would like to...
Hold on, we'll bring you a microphone. Thank you.
I would like to speak about a bit these cloud providers. Like this is changing the business also in the retail side, enterprise side, but also in the data center side. Like they become the sole customer, so you lose your bargaining power. And there are different cloud providers in different industries. There are industries specialized cloud providers. But they also started to, for example, for Google and so on, even their hardware products specific to their use. So like many players in the industry is ousted with this development. Also, they have a huge bargaining power on hardware providers as well. So what will be the position of the data centers or the tier ones? They will they run their own clouds, like some of them they do, and also these big cloud providers like Amazon, Google, and so on. They are not in every country, so there is a development in the software side as well, which needs this infrastructure, but it doesn't exist in that country, and there are sensitive information as well. How do you think it will affect the data centers and this interconnectivity between these clouds?
Mark, 722 questions.
All right.
Thank you so much.
I'll position it as what's the opportunity for data centers. I think for the global data centers like the Equinixes, DRTs, and now NTT with its 200 plus DCs, it's a fabulous opportunity for them to create an interconnected global cloud fabric. Thankfully for us, they haven't got their international network pricing models right yet. But to me, if I'm working there, that's a huge focus for me for the next couple of years, is to do that. And the beauty that they bring is that they're able to interconnect all the different clouds. They already do, right? Those on-ramps are in their data centers. Now, maybe they should use our SDN to connect that and make it programmable, but who knows? So I see that as a great opportunity for the big data centers and even smaller data center providers like us, as an example. In terms of, you mentioned infrastructure and that, though, I don't know what's going on there because, you have some clouds that have built their own infrastructure. So to me, it's just all about networking at this point. The challenge that you have as a IT team when you're trying to interconnect from an enterprise perspective, cloud to cloud to cloud to cloud, is obviously they all use different networking protocols that they've built themselves, most of it. So I think, there are still great opportunities for utilization of tool sets like Aviatrix and that, which basically make it really simple to build your own network between all the various different clouds. So I see that as another opportunity that's been slow to take off, purely, I think, because of marketing and exposure, but it's a great tool. And so then a combination of all that. For me, I wouldn't be surprised if a data center operator did deploy something like Aviatrix, because it makes really good sense and it's really easy to use. And it eliminates the requirement for a third router in between to connect the two. You basically deploy it in the VPC of one, VPC of the other, configure it, you can even control it to go over somebody's private network. Great tool. That's a great opportunity for me. That's what I see the next step for the big data centers. Maybe the little ones as well can kind of do small deployments like that. I hope I answered your question.
Okay, thank you. We have another question from Karsten.
Thank you. Yeah, there was one thing, Carsten Schiefner, Tactics Consulting. There was one thing that sort of triggered additional thoughts. Let me put it this way, what you said earlier, Mark. And not everything that LIMS is a comparison, but I start by that nonetheless. So in the very beginning, Anycast DNS was only for the root zone operations, and then it's sort of spilled over into the top level domains. And nowadays, even I, as a domain name holder for my personal use, can use Anycast DNS. So what you said is that what you've seen is that more and more, and so in general, the question goes to all of you, but as you've mentioned, directed to you, that more and more enterprises would become autonomous system holders as well, and rightly so, I would say, because that gives you all the independence you need. You hold your own number space, you hold your own autonomous system number, you go to from service provider to service provider as you wish, you can peer at internet exchanges, and so forth, and so forth, and so forth. And I just wonder whether there is a lower threshold in terms of the size of companies. Is that something you've given some thought? I mean, predictions are always difficult, in particular if they shall concern the future. But have you given any thought about it, where the lower barrier for the company for the size of companies is in terms of climbing independency from by holding on number spaces, IP version 4, well, it's not version 6, and autonomous system numbers? That's a question. Thank you.
I could answer that really quickly with a use case. So I see the threshold now just based on need, and there's a really good example with links. There was a fintech company that just wanted to pair with one prefix in the Middle East. They applied with assistance from Links, and the IX is now starting to do professional services to get an ASN, get the whole RIPE approval. Then they deployed, and for them it was absolutely fantastic, pairing with one prefix, generating loads of traffic, and their CFO was actually saying to Links, why am I only paying this amount per month? Am I being incorrectly billed? And I said, no, that's what it costs to pair. And I was like, the guy actually asked the CTO, Richard Petrie, can I pay more? And seriously, So no, it is all needs-based demand now, and how much effort you're willing to put into to basically get an ASN assigned and stuff like that. But there are use cases now that are very thinly defined that were never a reason for pairing before, but that is happening now.
Okay, thank you. Additional question, if I may.
Short, lunch, short.
Okay. Why didn't that fintech? Why didn't it go for a private network interconnection (PNI) instead of like public peering?
They didn't have any infrastructure in that area.
Okay, I see. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I really would like to thank you for being with us. I want to thank Deutsche Telekom for sponsoring this session. I would like to thank my my senior panelist here, sitting over here. So thank you so much, gentlemen. Thank you, really. I hope you got anything out of it. And this is the last panel of the 3 long days, and I hope you enjoyed it. And we're still not done. Lunch. Thank you.